Hello, and welcome back to Foos Entertainment for my review of 2015's. So I believe it's 2015. Yeah. No, 2016. 2015, 2016. Welcome to my review of Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. This is the Ultimate Edition, 4K release. All right, I'll be talking about the plot of the film, the rules opinion of the film, my opinion of the film, and give you a ranking on a movie and maybe a little bit of trivia about the film. Well, unlike Man of Steel, this actually does have the plot of the movie on the back of the release, so that makes it a lot easier. Fearing the actions of a godlike superhero left unchecked, Gotham City's own formidable vigilante takes on Metropolis's most revered savior, while the world rattles with what sort of hero it really needs, and with Batman and Superman at war with one another, a new threat quickly arises, putting mankind in greater danger than it has ever known before. Okay. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. All right. The rules opinion of this film. Most really don't like this movie. Most. And a big reason why is because they just felt that it was too confusing and kind of hard to follow. Give me a second here. I don't like the way this looks. Yeah. Balance. People don't like the fact that it's a little confusing. And they also didn't like a lot of the direction on how the characters were done and presented in the film. This film did not make much. Matter of fact, it was actually a box office flop in theaters back when it came out. And I believe it was 2016 when this movie came out. No, it was 2016 when it came out. So yeah, 2016 when it came out. It didn't make any money. Now, I watched it in theaters when it came out. I watched it pretty much in 3D. And actually, I kind of liked the movie. Now, going into my opinion of the film, I'm going to address a lot of the issues that there are with this movie. But first, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I like this movie. I like this movie a lot. Is it perfect? Is it what I wanted out of a Dark Knight Returns Part 2 adaptation? No. It's not. In fact, I'm going to go as far as to piss off a lot of people right now. Edited Michael Keaton in 1989's Batman and 1992's Batman Returns, and of course his return to the character of Dark Knight in The Flash, which we'll be reviewing later this month. My second favorite actor and portrayal of the Great Crusader, the Dark Knight Batman, is actually Ben Affleck's version of the character. And what I liked about it is he's much closer to the Michael Keaton version. And I'll go with a little trivia about which Batman you're actually getting in the modern Zack Snyder DC cinematic universe, and what you're getting with Michael Keaton versus, say, what you're getting with Val Kilmer or George Clooney or Adam West. What you're getting with this version of Batman is what you got with Michael Keaton version of Batman. You're getting the Frank Miller Batman. The Frank Miller Batman is completely different from the Batman that we're used to before you started adapting the Frank Miller version. Frank Miller version of the character is basically Bruce Wayne in his 50s. And this takes place way after the Bob Kane detective series comic books, to where he doesn't care about, you know, righteousness anymore. He just wants to kill the criminals instead of going ahead and sending them as like Christmas presents to the police. In Gotham, he just wants to be his own judge, jury, and executioner himself. So it's more about that Batman, much like it is in the Michael Keaton movies from Tim Burton. That was, the older, more gritty version of the character too, which is, I think, what makes it so great. Now we talked about Ben Affleck's version of the character. Let's talk about the flaws in the film, to get those out of the way. So I want to keep this, going. We don't like going past 10 minutes, but we might actually be doing that on this one. There's too much to talk about. Problem number one of this movie is the miscasting of Jesse Einsberg as Lex Luthor. That was one of the biggest mistakes that has ever been done in any of these DC films, is casting Jesse Einsberg as Lex Luthor. That was bad. That was dreadful and very, very bad. This is what Lex Luthor is in the comic books. He is taller than me, and I actually happen to be quite a tall individual. I am 6 feet tall. Used to be a little bit taller, but as one gets older, they shrink. Lex Luthor is well over 6 feet tall. He is something between 6'2" and 6'5". He is bald, and he is a athletically built figure. And so he has a build like mine, which is an athletic, sort of slim-like build, and he happens to be very, very tall. He's super, super intelligent. And that's not what you get with Jesse Einsberg. You get a nerdy, geeky-looking man-child of an actor. And I might add, he's my age. He's my age, and while I kind of still have a little bit of that boyish charm there, you can still tell that I look like a man. I look like I'm a grown-up, old, tailored, matured man. You don't get that with Jesse Einsberg. Even today, in his 40s, you still don't get that. Instead, he just looks like a 19 to 22-year-old little boy. And the fact that he is like 5'6" at the most in height, maybe 5'8", and has a very bony, not really a whole lot of meat on the bones type build, it just doesn't fit the bill of playing Lex Luthor. In the way that he portrays a character, granted, you do get a sense that he's a super intelligent, super smart in the visual, but it's not done to the way it should have been. That's problem number one. Problem number two with the movie is I kind of call this the Spider-Man 3 and Batman Returns syndrome illness of making superhero movies. Both Batman Returns and Spider-Man 3 made this mistake of having way too many characters in the movies. Way too many superheroes and way too many villains in the movie, when you could have just had one superhero and one villain and had a much better, story to be told. In the case of this one, I would say that they just had Lex Luthor maybe being the villain, and just kept it true to the Dark Knight Returns Part 2 graphic novel and not trying to do all this other stuff, this film probably would have been even better. There's so many characters. I mean, this is the second movie, and this is the second movie into this new cinematic universe that Zack Snyder created. The second movie, it's the second one. And you're introducing Wonder Woman in this movie. You're introducing Aquaman in this movie. You're introducing Cyborg in this movie. You're introducing the Flash in this movie. Way too many packed things. And then villain wise, this is where you have another really big mistake, and this makes it even worse than Batman Returns in Spider-Man 3's mistake of having an overly packed movie. Instead of being grounded to being one comic book, and the main premise of this movie is based off of the Frank Miller graphic novel Dark Knight Returns Part 2. That is what it's mainly based off of. But that wasn't enough, because they had to create sort of like a pre-Justice League story into it. But even more so, and this is the big dent, and this is done with such a rushing thing. I mean, quite literally, they do this, and this is one of the most iconic and most controversial and most celebrated comic books ever made. And that is 1996's Death of Superman. And they actually go ahead and they take the entire comic book of Death of Superman and integrate the story into the last 25 minutes of the movie. I'm not kidding about that. The last 25 minutes of the movie, they adapt that entire book, and you're 2 movies in. You're 2 movies in. You could have made 2 Superman movies. You could have made a standalone Batman movie. You could have, which they never did. They actually never made a standalone Batman movie. They just made a bunch of movies that are based in the Batman lore in this cinematic universe that we're exploring now. But they could have done that. They did make a Wonder Woman and an Aquaman in a Flash movie, but they just made it all integrated in this one big story, and that's part of the problem right there with the direction of this movie. And that's what people are talking about with the direction of Batman v Superman, is they're doing too much in this movie. They're trying to be bigger than it needs to be, or so to say. But with that said, I love the grittiness. I love the grittiness of Batman v Superman. I just absolutely love the grittiness of it. But let's go ahead and talk about the last problem that the film has. We were already at almost 13 minutes, but I tell you this might be a longer one than usual. The other big problem with this, and this is a big problem with a lot of movies, especially in this shared cinematic universe that we are exploring right now from the DC, Zack Snyder's DC universe. There was a lot of studio interference, and not just Batman v Superman, but there was a lot of studio interference when it came to Suicide Squad. There was a lot of studio interference when it came to Justice League. And that's why, that's another problem that this movie has, is that if they would have given Zack Snyder what he intended us, which is this version of the movie, this is the version he intended us to see. That theatrical cut isn't. It's a cut down version of the movie that actually has like almost 35 minutes of the movie completely taken out for runtime purposes. And what makes me upset about that, and makes a lot of people upset about that, is you have movies like Blade Runner 2049 that's 3 hours long. You have movies like Avengers Endgame, which is over 3 hours long. You have Avatar movies that are both 2 hours and 57 minutes long. Crap, even in the DC universe itself, you had Superman Returns in 2006, which was 2 hours and 57 minutes long. But yet, you cannot give us a 182-minute movie when you with these two. You can't do that. Studio interference. Warner Brothers has had to cut a third of the movie out, and then make it even more confusing for people to watch in the theaters. That's why the Ultimate Edition is so much of an improvement over the theatrical cut of the film, because it's the full cut of the movie. It's the intended version that you were supposed to see. And I can tell you another reason why they did that, though, and I think it's stupid, because if you go ahead and take a look at the Zack Snyder DC films that came before his own universe of making DC movies, which was be films like 300 and Watchmen, which he directed, which are very rated R. Another reason why they cut a third of this movie out is because this movie is rated R, not PG-13. And it wouldn't have been PG-13 if they hadn't taken a third of the movie out of it to make it PG-13. And that, to me, that's just stupid. There's nothing wrong with making a DC universe with these classic characters for adults instead of for children. It's like, it's a fan letter. When you do something different like that, that really works. This is what I love about Zack Snyder's DC universe he created, is the fact that he did what I have always wanted to say the James Bond franchise to be, which is grittier. Very grittier, very gothic, more of a darker universe that doesn't play with the status quo, as you can say, but it's not afraid to make the movies rated R, not afraid to throw some strong violence and language in there, and some adult situations and darker themologies. And that's part of why I like Batman v Superman, is because it's the first time we've actually really seen a true R-rated version of Batman. And we finally have a Superman movie that's rated R. Think about that for a second. That's kind of cool, isn't it? And Henry Cavill, I think, is feeling very comfortable with the role of playing Superman in this second movie. I just think that we were kind of robbed of not getting the Man of Steel Part 2. And not introducing Batman, people like Ben Affleck, in his own movie. I mean, you could have made a Dark Knight Returns Part 1 into a movie before you go into Batman v Superman. I think that would have been cool, but it didn't happen. I can just go on and on about this, but we already at like almost 18 minutes now, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring it to a close. I did tell you a little trivia about the movie and all that, so let's get this film a ranking. I cannot give this film, and have no intention of giving this film, despite the fact that I like it, a 100% 4-star rating. It is not going to get a 4-star rating. This movie is going to get a, I say a 3-star rating, which means that it's a great movie. In my mind, is a great movie. Is not a near perfect movie, nor is it a perfect movie. But I say is better than a good movie. I say is a great film. But I wouldn't exactly just call it a good film, or a almost good film, or just a poor film, because it's none of those things. This film is a great film. So I'm going to give it the great film score of 3 stars. Either you love this movie, or hate this movie, or completely disagree with my opinion of the film, because I'm defending this movie much more than I'm putting it down, even with addressing the issues the film has and making sense of them. Foose says, check it out and have fun with it. And I will see you guys for my next review, which will be of Suicide Squad. Until then.